Shalom and good evening to you. Hello, my name is Philip Fanstill and this is the philipfiles. And this is the entrance to the rabbit hole. Now, before I jump down this rabbit hole and throw away what little I have in regards to reputation, credibility, respect, future, I've got to ask: is this worth it? And is this rabbit hole a worthy endeavor? Um, so recently, I've had this theory that I'm going to propose and present in the next couple episodes, hopefully. And I've been thinking about this for a long time. It's called the Sun World Theory, and I'll get into this, like I said. But then I brought this up to my class. I was presenting it to my class, and so a lot of the kids asked about the Illuminati. Okay, so they asked. I'm like, oh, okay. As a teacher, I'm always learning. I learn along with my classes. When kids bring up questions, I'm like, oh, I don't know that. I'll go figure that out. And so I had heard of the Illuminati before and all this, but then when you get online, you start watching these videos. It kind of opens up this whole world. The best illustration would probably be the Matrix video and Matrix movies, where Morpheus presents to Neo an opportunity, a red pill or a blue pill, and blue, you go back to life as it was. Red pill, you go into the rabbit hole. It's going to get much weirder. And Neo, of course, picks the red one, and I'm probably going to pick the red one. Okay, I'm picking the red one, but there is the cost, and of course that's one of my best favorite reveals in all moviedom, is that reveal in the Matrix where Neo takes the red pill and things change in the next 2 or 3 minutes. The whole world's totally upside down. Everything is everything is revealed. Everything that was the deception that was the Matrix is now revealed for what it really is. So that's an interesting thing. I've been involved in prophecy, studying it, always been fascinated with. My friend John and I used to read these books growing up. Now we argue with each other on Facebook. But the late great Planet Earth, Hal Lindsey, Hilton Sutton, and our church would have these prophecies guys come in, and it's always very fascinating, very brain stimulating. And so I kind of gave that up and kind of went away from that for a long time, because the 88 reasons why Jesus is going to return, we talked about this earlier. Just kind of but recently I've been coming back to it, and then with going to Israel, and then all these questions, and then the Illuminati question, and then my own theory that I'll present borrows from a lot of different prophetic and people that have really researched things like the Nephilim and hybrids and all this kind of stuff that you would think are just fiction and mythology. Well, the truth is stranger than fiction, as the saying goes, and this is very true. And that's some of my favorite things in the stories in the Bible, are where you read it one way and you've always read it that way, and then somebody points out, wait a second, and all of a sudden the whole thing opens up completely. So there's a rabbit hole. Now the problem with this rabbit hole is, well, one, it's there's a reason most people, Jesus says, broad is the way that leads to destruction, narrow is the way that leads to life. Kind of that Robert Frost poem, The Road Less Traveled. There's a reason why it's less traveled. Right? It's uncomfortable. It's going to require being wrong, as I've presented before and in my class, and I am wrong, and I'm okay with that. I'd rather know the truth than be right. So I don't mind being wrong. I'll learn from anybody. I'll talk to anybody. I'll try to receive from people. I'm not just going to receive anything somebody tells me, but I'll listen to it and then process it. And now, there's the last video I did with bubbles. I do think there are certain things that we can help align, plumb lines, if you will, or some things that we can line up with, or bubbles that kind of keep us straight, keep us from getting too confused. Jesus is one of these, of course. A big one, actually. Very big one. Anyway, so I'm willing to be wrong. So as I've been exploring these videos and reading these books and thinking about this stuff, the whole thing has opened up. And I know if I go down this direction, I actually talked to somebody tonight because I'm like, well, before I go down this rabbit hole, let me make sure I consider the cost, as Jesus says, of building a tower. Consider the cost. Are you sure you want to do this? I mean, and so I'm seeking some counsel. Talked to my mother tonight, and that the concern is, and I've seen people do this where they get so looking for demons under every rock, devils and everything, that they kind of miss Jesus, and as I'm off to say and give advice to people, keep the main thing. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing, and the main thing is Jesus, of course. So that's, and so I feel like I'm doing that, but at the same time, I feel like God's leading me this other way, which I think, it's actually, I don't know, but you got to be very careful, because I've seen and heard and been around people that are just cray, and or are they? There's an interesting idea in history, and I was looking for the quote on this. I couldn't find it. There's this interesting idea that truth, being stranger than fiction, truth a lot of times is resisted when it's first proposed. So a revolutionary truth, let's call it, when it's first proposed, is resisted. People, ignored. But when the truth persists and it can no longer be ignored, then the people that are spouting it, or the people that are proposing it, are ridiculed, called crazy. If that doesn't work, then they're threatened. Some of them may be silenced, killed. And if that doesn't work, then basically there's all these levels of resistance to truth. And then at some point, when it becomes undeniable, and it then catches the grassroots, and it's the people at the ivory towers, if you will, the big dolls, then when it's accepted, they'll be like, oh yeah, we've always known that, we've always done that. And then they kind of gloss over the fact that they resisted and persecuted and tortured and killed and whatever. The best example of this would be Galileo and Copernicus with the heliocentric versus geocentric view. There was a lot of resistance to the heliocentric view that the Earth revolved around the sun, counterclockwise. Yeah. That the Earth revolved around the sun, and there's a lot of resistance to this. And so Copernicus actually just, at first, he was just proposing it as an idea, and he actually waited till he was about to die to publish his book, because he knew there was going to be a firestorm, if you will. And then Galileo is the one that kind of gets the brunt of this, and this there's a whole other entry, a blog, or there's a lot written about this. But suffice this to say, Galileo got in a lot of trouble, and part of it was because of his own obtuse behavior. But he got in a lot of trouble with the people at the time, the Catholic Church, and who were very resistant to this. But they're also resistant to his personality. But he was very popular, so they couldn't just kill him. And so he was tried and eventually persecuted and put under house arrest, so he could not continue his preaching. So there is a cost. And now, of course, it's like, of course we know the sun is the center and the earth revolves around the sun. We all know that now. Well, these truths are less apparent, less evident when they're first proposed, and there is a lot of resistance. I remember a couple of years ago people saying that the government was spying on us, and everybody's like, "Oh, you crazy people, you crazy, conspiracy theorists." Well, then Snowden released that stuff a year and a half ago about the NSA, and it's like, oh yeah, the government is spying on us. and there's lots of other things of that nature. But so conspiracies. Is this a rabbit hole? Again, it's not the conspiracies. It's not that I'm seeking out conspiracies. I want to know God's truth. And so one of the plumb lines is the Bible, and I'm constantly going back to that. But it's amazing how some of these things that I've been reading and listening and hearing and seeing lately are like, yeah, they're actually in the Bible, and they're not just like once or twice. It's not like a hidden verse. They're there. They're just, you don't see them because you weren't looking for them. It's like that. Where's Waldo? You don't see Waldo, and then when you see him, you don't know why everybody else can't see him. Or it's one of those optical illusions. It looks like a skull, but it's actually an old lady or a couple ladies or whatever. One of those. At first you're looking at it, I see this, and then when you finally see it, it's like, why doesn't everybody see that? So maybe that's what this conspiracy thing is. Maybe I'm going off to cray land. I'm going to be very careful before I really present things on this blog in detail. The sun world theory I've been thinking about for a couple years, so I'm pretty comfortable presenting it. But then there's some other things about secret societies like the Illuminati and stuff that are like, if it's true, then you shouldn't go running into it. And if it's not true, you're going crazy. So either way, you should really kind of, watch your step and be deliberate. At least that's what I'm telling myself. I hope I listen. So anyway, that's all I've got to say today for the entrance to the rabbit hole. Now, as I take the red pill, as we start going down this path, it will be interesting where this leads. And I'm sure there will be a lot of theories that come from it. So can't wait to share those, and look forward to the journey. And I hope I don't get stuck in the rabbit hole. But part of the cost. Well, thank you for joining me today. Howdy, and have a great day.